So we're gonna try this again. We're gonna try this again, John. All right. Hopefully you're still ready.
Oh yeah.
Still ready? Okay. All right. Season 2 of the End Podcast. All right. So cameras are on. All right. All right. And we're back. Well, I'm back. Season 2 of the End Podcast. New season starting off with an old friend. Very, very excited. I mean, a friend that I've known for a long time. Not that he's old. So, before I introduce you to him, I want to thank everybody who has been along for the ride. Thank you for your subscriptions, for the comments, for the likes, for the shares, all those good things. Remember, it takes a village. So, share, comment, like, because if you don't, I mean, what's the point of all of this, right?
That's right. We're trying to spread the word.
Yes, absolutely. So, my first guest for season 2, I'm very excited to have him here. So one of my favorite shows ever, a show called Burn Notice. And there was a line in the show where the bad guy told Michael, hey, I know the answers to the questions you don't even know to ask. And that line just resonated with me because honestly, in the world of entrepreneurship, trying to get through, it is important to have access to people who know the answers to the questions you don't even know to ask yet. And that's who this guy is. To my left, John Childress. What's up, man?
Hey, it's good to see you. It's great to be here.
You sure?
Oh yeah, most definitely. We always have good conversations.
We do. I mean, the way it was shaking out, I probably should have hit the record button about 20 minutes ago because we touched on some pretty serious, pretty important things that would be helpful to people who are trying to grow. So, who is John Childress? Well, John Childress is the founder, CEO, right?
Correct.
Of Childress Business Consulting. That's what he does right now. One of the things he does. He's also a pretty good DJ.
Second best in the world behind this brother.
There we go. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm gonna clap that up. He also, I was just going through his accolades because he technically, in my opinion, is a serial entrepreneur, serial successful person. What were some of the thing that you didn't want to say?
Well, I started off early. I was about 21, 22 years old, and I launched the Domino's Pizza franchise, and I was probably the first African-American franchisee out of 4,000 stores. And, from that kind of set the tone for where I was going to go. And as you said, I continued as a serial entrepreneur throughout my career.
Domino's, that's crazy. Well, I'm not even going to ask you what year that is, so we'll just leave that be. And then you were also the executive
director of the African American Chamber of Commerce of Philadelphia. And I left there in 2007, and that's when I launched Childress Business Consulting because I just felt like, you know what, it's time to do this for me because it's so hard to get a board of directors into creative and innovative thinking. Whereas when you go for yourself, sure, everything falls on you, but then you also have the ability to really make things happen and really bring your ideas to the table.
Right, which is crazy. That's vision. So, with Childress Business Consulting, what have you been working on? Who comes to Childress Business Consulting to get your help?
Sure. So we started off early doing like a lot of business consultants do, which is working with startups and trying to help them write their business plan, launch their business. And that one of the things that I found is I'm not getting enough traction doing that. And so eventually what happened was I ended up winning a contract with the city of New York to be their chief entrepreneur trainer for the fast track program. And I trained probably about 3,000 people from 2008 to 2017 rather. And so then I really started morphing what I do. And now what I do a lot more is more of the economic development side. So working with cities or governments or business support organizations to really see how do we have a program which helps them and moves them along. So I've written programs in New York, in Delaware, 2 in the Caribbean, which is a lot of fun going down there. It's so painful to leave this cold weather and go down there and train, I'm trying to get you to come down there with me. But so now we really focus on a few key things. We do high-level training. We train all of the managers and supervisors for the Essex County, what's their division of welfare. It's called DFAB, Family Assistance and Benefits. And we also do a lot of training in the city of New York. We do have a special program that we have built for people that are in public housing, teaching them how to be entrepreneurs. And I'm really proud of that.
Okay.
We're taking folks who have talent but don't have the opportunity to make it happen. So we're now more into the economic development, and we're looking at what are the solutions which turn communities around.
Okay. That's cool. I want to circle back a little bit to, so you starting out with entrepreneurs, startups, the one-offs, the people that have the idea, right? What was the biggest challenge that you had with working with them in general?
Sure. I think most people have a vision that they want to be an entrepreneur, but they don't really understand the work that's involved.
Right.
You've launched several businesses. I've launched several businesses. And people think of it as, I'm tired of my boss. I want to do this. So when you start with them and they have a good idea, but they have no clue as to how much work, and also that you're going to suffer. You're going to have what I call short-term pain for long-term gain.
Right.
You know, you got to go through that pain. It's almost like when you haven't been working out in a few years, then you go back into the gym. First few months hurt. Let's be honest, right?
Right.
And then after you've been working out, it starts feeling good. So it's the same with business. And those single entrepreneurs, they don't realize that. They also don't understand the importance of paying for good service. So you're constantly tracking them down to get paid, you know, and so that's really the key. So it's a little bit of a challenge, and you don't feel like you're making enough difference.
No. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think that is, that's how society is right now. We have a microwave society.
Definitely.
Everybody wants, they want overnight success, not understanding that overnight success really translates to about 10 years of nights, before, you master whatever it is, your talent is, your skill,
Right.
You get enough knowledge that you can then step out and go hit the open market with whatever it is that you're trying to offer. And then even then, that's a whole nother hurdle, because now you have competition, you have just the stupid challenges that come along with trying to launch a business. Again, back to the having answers to the questions you don't even know to ask.
Right.
About,
That's right.
Not even like insurance and taxes and things like that, but just getting people to
Right.
work with you. And
Right.
that's one of the challenges that I've had going, every time I've tried to start something, finding the right people that will actually follow through and stick with. Like, they usually come out the gate hot and everything is good.
Right.
And
right.
then, life gets in the way for them, and then they kind of pair off. And then at that point, it's very easy to lose your momentum and say, you know what? I quit.
Right.
So,
right. Well, we make the mistake of putting ourselves in the other person's shoes. And this is one time when that doesn't work. Because we say, if I was that person and I had that amount of talent and this opportunity in front of me, I would jump all on it. What we don't do enough is looking at the psychoanalytics, why people do something, right? So so this person may be as talented, they may even be more talented than you, but they don't have the drive and motivation to continuously fight through all the challenges there in order to succeed. And it's hard to find that in people. You can look at their background and see if they've done it. Before you commit to them, you can try to break them off smaller pieces and see if they follow through and get done. But at the end of the day, people are dynamic. They're not static, right? A piece of metal will always heat up at a certain temperature. It'll bend at a certain temperature. People aren't like that. Even one person from one year of their life to the next, they change tremendously. So that's the thing you really have to look out for. So one of the things that I think we both have learned in business is you have to build your system making allowances for people letting you down.
Yes. You have to see the point of failure. You have to identify all the points of failures, and you have to be able to pivot.
Right.
And pivoting is key. Most successful people will tell you that where they are right now is not where they necessarily thought they were going to be. In that way,
That's for sure.
all these different apps, they start off with one vision. App tech company, they have one vision for how their product's going to be used, and then the users end up dictating how their business is going to operate, because the users aren't using the app the way they thought they were going to use it, or the technology, and they pivot.
Right.
What is auto tune? So auto-tune actually derived from mining and drilling. They actually use the algorithm, the signaling to bounce it down in a tunnel somewhere and see what's down there. And it just happened to work out for auto-tune, for altering voices and whatnot. So there's all kinds of stories like that where somebody started out with a vision for their idea and it just went totally left, but that left was to success. So.
Yeah, I think one of the famous ones in business was 3M Post-it notes. They were just making some glue. The glue got on the paper, and they're like, these papers keep sticking to things. And the next thing you know, we had sticky pads, right? So you're right about that.
I meant to laugh. I meant to cheer that on. I'm still getting the rust off. So, no, it's amazing. So but I think in talking to a lot of people and having discussions about, hey, I have this vision, I have this dream. These are the things I want to do. A lot of people are so easily stopped. The first failure, first wall they hit, and that's it, and they're done.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And I think over time you learn that what defines your success is not your brilliant idea. It's not, the talent that you have. The real key is how well you respond to adversity. When these challenges come up at you, what do you do? And I liken it because, years ago I ran track in Willingboro, and I go back to that. You're at the start of a race and there's hurdles in front of you. You're running the hurdles, right? And you look over and you see in the lane 2 on the left side and lane 4 on the right side, people have lower hurdles than you. So what are you going to do? You can quit the race because you say it's not fair. Look at their hurdles, look at mine, because that's the way life is. Or you can start running the race, but you're so busy looking over at their low hurdles, you trip and fall on yours and you fall on your face. Or you can train to be faster and stronger so that you're going to jump over these high hurdles faster than they can jump over the low hurdles. And that's how you be successful. You can't just sit around complaining that the situation's uneven or it's not a level playing field. The only way you make it level is by succeeding.
Okay.
So that's what I think is the key.
That is a great analogy, a metaphor for life and success. Man, you got to focus on your hurdles. And
that's
you have
right.
To, and that's what it's all about. And it is easy to be distracted by the world around you and the plight of other people or the plight you don't think they're having.
Right. Right.
What I've learned over the past few years is most people have it way harder than you have it.
Yeah.
It's
no doubt.
So, focus on your lane, what's in front of you, and actually run your race. Like, it's you're competing against yourself, not everyone else. If you stay trying to compete against everybody else, you're gonna be disappointed. I really do. That, once I found peace in life, once I figured out that to just ignore what's going on with everybody else in terms of their success and what they're doing in life, weighing it against where I'm at versus where they're at. No, it's just, you're doomed. You're doomed to be upset. So.
Yeah, you're right. And I think you raised an excellent point in terms of, you really need to see that most folks really do have it harder than you. And about 4 or 5 years ago, I had the pleasure of going on a trip to Haiti and working with the school there that had been crushed by the earthquake, and they were trying to rebuild it, and they needed business help to raise funds for it. And these kids in school were the best students I've ever seen in my life. And I found out why. Only 38% of the children in Haiti graduate elementary school.
Wow.
But when you walked into their class, the girls would curtsy, the boys would bow. They'd be like, "Good morning, Monsieur Childress." And I was just like, wow, this would never happen. Then there was a little boy who was stuck trying to conjugate a verb in French. And instead of the other kids laughing and making fun of him, 2 young ladies ran up to the board, showed him how to do it. He thanked them, and they all sat down. I was like, wow, good luck finding that happening in an American school. So you see what people are dealing with, and you say, you know what? I really don't have it that bad. Right. These challenges that I thought were bad. In Haiti, the electricity goes off at 7 p.m. Right?
Really?
Every day. If you want dairy products, every day you have to walk to the store. So when you start experiencing what other people have come through, the challenges they've gone through, then all of a sudden you say, you know what? This hurdle in front of me, I better knock this out and stop the complaining.
It ain't nothing.
Nothing, exactly.
It's nothing. And
exactly.
That is, the struggle is what makes you strong.
Definitely. Most definitely.
It's even, if you want to get stronger lifting weights, it's resistance training.
Right.
You have to, you have to move more weight than you're accustomed to. So, and that's with life, and that's with, especially in the entrepreneurial space.
Right.
So at what point what point did you, when you made your pivot
Mhm.
from dealing with, you know, the individual entrepreneur, was there a particular situation, or, you know, or was it just, did you wake up one morning and you're like, you know what, I ain't dealing with these fools no more, or did an opportunity present itself to put you, to help you be able to work in the space that you're in now?
So for my current motivation, what really drove me there was when I was executive director of the chamber. I came up with a lot of ideas that I thought were good. You know,
Right,
at least
right.
I thought they were right.
Hmm.
And these ideas were ways for us to improve Black business throughout the region. And when I took them to the board didn't want to do them. You know, one of them was this thing called the Gold Seal of Approval, where we would work with each company and do it and analyze it and see, these are the companies that are excellent. These are the ones that we're going to recommend. The companies that weren't excellent, we're going to say, okay, let's work with them to bring them up to that level before
Right.
we recommend them. Because for African American business, there's a condition called the sin of the individual is visited upon the many. So what that simply means is, if someone hires one Black contractor and that contractor does a bad job, they're like, I'm not hiring another Black contractor.
Right.
It doesn't
Yeah.
work for other races. You hire an
No, it
Italian
doesn't.
contractor, an Irish contractor, and they mess up, you're not going to say, I'm never hiring another Italian. But because of, you know, all of the things we've gone through throughout our history here in this country, we can't afford to make those mistakes. So I said, let's make sure we're making these businesses excellent. And the board didn't want to go with that because they were like, no, well, we have friends, and what if their companies aren't there? So then I said, you know, then we need to work with them. You know, we cannot just, we have to do better. You know, and I think part of the problem why our people are struggling is we don't focus on excellence. You know, and so
Yeah.
that's the key. So branching off on my own gave me that opportunity to start working towards that.
Yeah. You know, I think in my old age, right, I have learned that a lot of people don't even understand what excellence is.
You got that right.
They, you know, and it's a conversation that I had, a good friend of mine, and he was talking about his son. His son was acting up,
Mm-hmm.
and he said, you know, I just keep telling him he needs to make the right decisions. He needs to make better decisions. And it just kind of hit me at that moment that, you know, I asked him the question, like, well, how do you know he knows what the right decision is,
Right.
what the better decision
That's
is?
right.
Because there's a lot of people, most people think they're doing the best that they know how, and they
Right.
think they're doing the best they know how, but they've never been exposed to people like yourself
Mm-hmm.
who do know better, you know, because you've had the life experiences to be able to know better. And, you know, we're sitting back looking at them struggling, like, man, they're really messing up. Like they're less than. It's easy to take that
Right.
position,
Right.
but the reality of it is they don't know that they could be doing it better. And so I struggle with trying to figure out how to be a messenger to transmit the information of, hey, this is how you set yourself up to be able to make better decisions, better choices.
Yeah, I think you're really hitting on something there, and it probably leads to my greatest frustration with my career and the work that I do, is that there are a lot of people who don't know and don't want to know.
Right.
That is enormously frustrating. I don't care. You can roll out, and it's more prevalent today than it ever was. You
Right.
can roll out all the data in the world. I don't care whether you're talking business, politics, economics, education. You roll out all the data, and they're like, nope, I'm sticking with my preconceived notion no matter how much facts you give me. They don't want to see it, brother. They don't want to
Yeah,
see it. And
yeah.
so, and that becomes the battle, is how do I get them to see this? How do I get them to see that they need to be constantly learning? Because you and I have done a lot of different things in business and in life. But as far as we get, we still realize the amount of stuff we don't know is greater than what we know.
Absolutely.
Therefore, we have to listen to other people. We have to seek out other opinions. And what I'll do is, because I'm, you know, me, I don't have the greatest patience in the world sometimes. So, but I will.
No, you
Not
don't.
even close, right?
No, but I'm glad you owned up to that.
Oh,
But-
definitely, definitely. But what I will do is I will reflect on it later on and say, you know what? Brandon was right. You know, he was right on the point that he made. I was too harsh. I was wrong. And then I say, okay, I need to fix that, right? And I think a key thing for all of us is to be able to say, I don't know everything, and I do need to learn, and I need to be able to look back on the things that I've done wrong and say, I was wrong on that. I made a mistake. Because
Right.
or else, how do we grow as a person? How do we grow as a people and as a community if we can't own up to our mistakes and endeavor to do better going forward?
Right. And so to the whole it takes a village. So it's not just you being able to be humble enough to say, "Hey, I don't know, or I
Right.
made a mistake," and go back. It's also for the people around us to not be like, "Yeah, I told you so."
True.
Give
True.
people a hard time, because that therein lies the problem. The challenge is most people don't want to be Donald Trump
Right.
and just
Right.
never say I'm never wrong, blah
Right.
blah blah.
Right.
They want to be they would like to be corrected if
Mm-hmm.
that correction comes from a place of love and support, and
Yeah.
not like, hey, I'm going to stomp on you and make you feel bad. So I do believe that is a challenge a lot of us face, with just trying to grow, is being willing to take the lumps that go along with admitting that you're wrong.
Right.
And
Right.
hopefully not having someone late down the line throw that back in your face. Like, well, you remember when you were wrong about this, you were wrong, you did this wrong, you did that wrong. I mean, the truth of the matter is you learn way more from being wrong. You
Yeah.
learn way more from your losses than you ever do from winning.
Right. Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
So this sounds crazy, but we should be embracing the opportunities to fail.
Without a doubt. And that's probably one of the biggest faults of our educational system, which leads to that mentality going on later in life. You're supposed to get 100 on every test. You're not supposed to do wrong.
Good Lord.
Everything is towards getting these high scores. But like you said, how do you learn from that? And how do you learn unless you go off on a different direction and you try something and it fails miserably? You learned a lot from that, right?
Right.
But we don't prize that. We don't allow that because everyone always has to put out this perfect image of themselves. And it's probably exacerbated on social media where every person, bench presses 300 pounds and runs 10 miles and they're such and such IQ and they have this car and all this other stuff, So we can't be real with that. And so I think that is a huge problem that we have to overcome as a society.
So I'm about to do a shameless plug. One of the things I do is I have a Mixcloud, mixcloud.com/DJ Silk 12.
World's greatest.
Yeah, right. Yes. I'm gonna clap it up for myself. But
There you go.
one of the mix series that I share on there is called Just Practice, and there are mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
There's mistakes. I
Right.
mean, I can't. I mean, that's it. And the reason why I post them is because I want to share my growth as a DJ as I come back. Because for you guys who don't know, I retired. And leading up to that retirement, so the arc of me being a DJ was when I started, I practiced all the damn time. Used to drive my family crazy in the basement, just rocking out. And I practiced. And then once my career got to the point where I was spinning on a pretty regular basis, and I didn't want to set my equipment up, I stopped practicing. But it was okay because I was DJing
Right.
at least
So
once or
much.
twice a week. So
Right.
I could practice while I was working. Then it got to the point where things slowed down, where I had a setup in my studio. So there was really no excuse. There was always something there for me to practice, but I didn't practice because I had become disenchanted with the whole DJing thing. And I stopped practicing, and then the gigs became farther and fewer in between. And I was on my way to retirement. And then one thing led to another. And I decided, all right, I'm not going to retire. I'm going to get back into it.
Yes.
Because I was still getting calls from clients. Like Lincoln University was a client that they call me every year to do their homecoming event. And there's people that I've done their wedding receptions, and they would call and they're like, hey, we want you to come and do this. And I couldn't say no to them, but here I am rusty because I hadn't been practicing. I hadn't been going through my music and seeing what's what. So I had to have that come to Jesus conversation with my, moment where it's like, look, you're either going to really retire and you're going to
Right.
not
Take anything,
or if you're going to even if you take 1 gig a year, Negro, you need to be up on it, right? So it's like I got to start practicing, and I love practicing now, but I didn't want to waste that time and not have some content come out of it.
Right.
So
Right.
I record it. It's called Just Practice. There's some, I try things that I never, like I'm he's traditionally a blending DJ. You know, now I'm trying to cut and scratch and do things. So there's mistakes in it, and it's hard when I listen to the playback,
Right,
and I cringe because like, oh man, that didn't sound the way I wanted it to sound. So, but back to the original point, like I don't want to come off as perfect and infallible. Right. I don't want people to think that I'm just untouchable, because that stunts other people's growth. Because for the one person that's like, yo, that guy's dope, I respect the fact that he's perfect. There's 10 other people that are like, that could be like, I'm not even going to try to be a DJ. I'm not going to try to do it because I don't think I can ever reach that level of perfection. And so, so that's my contribution to society. It's making society a better place, and to embrace failing, embrace mistakes, embrace the losses. It's just so long as all those things aren't done because you were careless.
Right, exactly.
You know, if you're putting out honest effort, then there's no shame in failing. There's no shame in not having a whole lot of money. There's no shame in not having all the material things, because guess what? Most of the world is broke. Don't let social media fool you.
You raised a couple of really excellent points that apply to life and also apply to business. You know, I think that the fact that this whole image of being perfect, people think it motivates others. It actually discourages others, because they're like, you know, that can't be me, you know? And so then they say, you know what? I'm never going to make it to that level. So why bother? Right. And then the second part about it is, how do you know how to get better unless you're looking back at those mistakes, admitting those mistakes and living in them? I mean, and that works for every single part of your life, whether it's, you know, you're with your family, whether it's with your business, your friends. You've got to be able to go back and own those mistakes in order to get better. So it starts with something that you have that you didn't explicitly say, which is, number one, you care about being the best that you can possibly be, no matter what you do, right? And then number two is that you're a lifelong learner.
Yes.
You know more today than you did yesterday. You'll know more tomorrow than you do today. And if we don't have those two things, where we care about being the best that we can possibly be, and we are also going to continually learn to get better and improve, guess what? Everyone else is passing us by then in that case.
You're incredibly correct. I'm glad I could be part of you making that great point.
Hey, it's your point. I just bring it out.
Oh man, I appreciate
Bring it out. Bring it out.
Yes. So, all right. So what we're going to do, I was trying to work this so it wouldn't have to take a break, but we got to take a break. All right. Because you know what? I failed, and I'm not even ashamed of it. So we're going to take a quick break, and we will see you after. Well, we'll see you on the other side. All right. Cool. Hit the button. Clap. And we are back. The break is over. Oh, man. So, Mr. Cayman Islands, what exactly are you doing out in the Cayman Islands?
Well, there's a couple of things. The funny thing was, we just had taken a family vacation there about 5 years ago. And while I was there, I met this gentleman named Omar Chambers, who was the vice president of the Cayman Islands Small Business Association. So while we were talking, he's like, well, what do you do? And I told him about the business training I do in New York and Delaware and different places. He's like, man, we could use some training. I said, really? He said, oh, yeah. So like 2 months later, he bought me a ticket, airfare, hotel, everything to come down there and do training. So I was like, this is pretty nice. And let me tell you, every person has their place that they consider their heaven on earth.
Right.
And that's it for me. It is peaceful. It's multicultural. There's no crime. You know, it is just, to me, it's just like a little slice of heaven, and it never gets below like 79 degrees, which is perfect for me because I'm like Mr. Heat Miser. So I started doing the training with them, and then it's just started first a couple times a year, then 3 or 4 times a year, and now I go every other month. So I go down there and do the business training. And then while I've been down there, I've met people with business needs. So I met this gentleman who was looking at this property, which is, you know, probably about 30 acres of the last prime real estate on 7 Mile Beach, which is the famous beach there. So they're looking at really, what can we build here to do something creative? So now I've been working with commercial development to really create something fabulous there, something which is more like for the millennials, because as you might imagine, real estate's very expensive there.
Right.
And their cost of living is high, but they also have a high income. But the young professionals, they go off to college somewhere, they come back, and they can't afford to buy in their own place. So I want to create something really spectacular and modern, kind of like some of the better places you see in Northern Liberties, where it's really creative, small footprint in order
Right.
to keep the cost down, because a lot of the millennials, they don't want a 3 or 4,000 square foot home. They want something small, but they want a community
Right.
together for them to, to cohabit and go along with. So I've been working on building something there, which really could be nice if it takes off. So I love going down there. I'm got to get you down there on one of my trips. You'll
I
love it.
know, man. I know. Actually have to renew my passport because that expired this year.
Oh yeah,
So,
you got to.
man, living
Only
the dream.
38% of Americans have passports.
I can believe that.
So we've got to get out and experience more. There's so much more out there for us.
Yeah, that's. I mean, we have to experience what more in what's in our neighborhoods.
That's true.
There's so much around us. We get caught up in our routines, and I'm very guilty of that. I'm a very routine based person. I might be OCD about it, but yeah, there is so much just around us that
Yeah,
we miss out on.
true.
And then it's amazing when you have a tourist come into your city and they're like checking out all these things that are around the corner from you, and you're just like, man, you flew all the way here for that
And you've been here for years and never seen
and
it.
never seen it,
Right?
never thought about going in there. So yeah, that is pretty cool. So, what advice do you have for some, general advice, just in terms of someone who's listening, who's thinking about getting started with the entrepreneurial adventure? I mean, where do they start?
Sure. So what I always do with folks who say they want to be an entrepreneur, the first thing is I always give them the hard stories, right? These are the challenges. Are you really ready to go through this? Are you willing and able to put through the work on that? And then if that doesn't scare them off, I take them through a process. The process is we get a big sheet of paper, write on there all of the things that you're good at, okay? So they'll list 7 or 8 different things. And then I'll ask them, what independent affirmation of that do you have? I could tell you that I can sing, and you might be like, John, please stop singing, right? So is there someone else who's objective who says that you're good at those things? All right, great. So now that we get the list down to like 4 or 5 things, now out of these 4 or 5 things, what do you really love to do? Because
Okay.
if you don't love it, you're not going to be in there for the hard times. The first time hard times come, you're going to be out of there.
Right.
So then that's the second factor, is do you really love it? So now you're down to 2 or 3 things. So next on those 2 or 3 things, we look at it and say, can you make money at it? Right?
Right.
There are things that you do that you can make money, but there's also things that you do that you're good at, you love it, but guess what? There's no money in it. For about 2 years, I had a business upgrading computers to Pentiums, to tell you how back that was,
right, right.
So I put a new motherboard and a processor in there. So instead of them spending $2,000 for a new computer, they pay me $800. I'd make $400 profit, buy all the stuff online and get it done. Well, guess what? The prices of computers fell down to the point where they can get a brand new computer cheaper than I could fix the old one.
Right.
So that was the end of that opportunity, right? A lot of people think because they do something that someone's going to pay them a lot of money for it. So I take them through those processes. But the one overriding factor, think of something that you love to do and be excellent at it. How can I be the absolute best who's ever done this before? And even if you don't make it to the absolute best, it's going to make you so much better at what you do.
Okay, there you go. Let me see if I hit the right button. Look, we're making those mistakes. We laugh and we cheer, but
That's
no,
right.
it's
That's
very
right.
important. So, are you ready for the interview questions?
I'm ready.
ready?
Fire away.
I know people. So, for those of you who are new to the In Podcast, I ask the standard questions to everyone, and so as with each guest, I should say, you can see how they respond to these questions, and then pick and choose who what resonates with you, and maybe use their answers for advice and direction for your journey in life. So, all right, let's see. So, John, what motivates you?
That one is I can tell you in detail. I mean, I was fortunate enough to come from a family where both sides, my mother's side and my father's side, were real accomplished. My father was one of the designers of the Apollo flight simulator for NASA. He had his master's in physics, and my mother has her PhD in child development. Opened up many agencies across the country to prevent child abuse. And My great uncle was the first black mayor of Waco, Texas. So I could go on, but I was fortunate. We don't pick our family. We
Right.
just pop up and we're in our family. So they kind of set the standard. And then the next thing I started looking at was, how can I make a difference in the world? I was always a fan of reading from an early age. My father would buy us Black history cartoons. They were these little comic books you'd learn about Benjamin Banneker and Frederick Douglass and everything. And my father in LA used to have political meetings every Sunday at our house. And so all these great leaders from around there, I mean, Johnny Cochran would come over and
Wow.
spend time. Tom Bradley, who became the first and only black mayor of Los Angeles, and a gentleman named Ron Karenga, who was the father of Kwanzaa. They would come by and have debates. So that got me motivated. But then when I got to be an adult myself, I realized the challenges in front of us aren't really as much civil rights as they used to be, but economic rights.
Right.
So
Yes.
then I started saying, okay, well, we're allowed to vote. We're allowed to do these things, but we don't have any money. So you can't fully, embrace what's going on in a capitalist country if you don't have capital, right?
Correct.
So I started looking at it and saying, what could I do to make a difference in this world? And so what motivates me was saying, all right, I have to take the good work that my family members have done before, the people I've met along the way and studied, my professor, Ivan Van Sertima at Rutgers, a lot of different folks, and see how can I make a difference and how can I leave a legacy that my children will follow. So my motivation right now is coming up with some type of solution which is going to build economic models that help communities and people go forward. And until I get that done, I'm going to keep running as hard as I can to the finish line.
There you go. That's a great question. God darn, man.
There we
Oh
go.
my gosh.
We'll take the applause.
Man, I'm gonna have to switch those buttons since she wanna lean that way, and then she's still laughing.
Yeah,
God
she
damn.
don't stop.
No, man, that's just a testament to your humor, man. Your sense
There
of
we
humor.
go.
There you go. All right. So, question 2: when did you decide to make the big change to chase your dreams? And did anything that happen to you to push to make that change? You know what I mean? Push you to make the change.
Yeah, by far, the key moment in my life was losing my father. He unfortunately developed pancreatic cancer, and it was such a shock because I figured he'd always be here because my father didn't drink, he didn't smoke. He worked out every day. He was 60 years old. He was still doing 200 push-ups every day, 200 sit-ups.
Good Lord.
He was a Golden Gloves boxer when he was young. I mean, so this man was in shape, and yet he was taken away. And I looked at my life and I always thought I was going to be like the next Martin or Malcolm or something along those lines. And I wasn't nearly where I needed to be. So I said, okay, what do I have to do different to get to where I want to go? So I look at it now as I may not, get there as early as I thought I would, but I'm going to keep fighting to go forward in memory of him because that's what he wanted me to be. He didn't raise me to be average. He raised me to make a difference in the world.
Yeah, you did a good job.
I'm coming along. I'm still a work in progress.
Yeah,
there we
look,
go.
I got it right too. How about that, man? Improvement, growth. All right. So, question 3: what has been unexpectedly challenging about your dream chasing journey?
You know what it is it's almost like that people are complacent. If you think of like the laws of physics, bodies at rest tend to stay at rest, and those in motion tend to stay in motion. You and I are always in motion. We're always looking for the next great thing to work on and build. I never realized there were so many people that were just stuck in the mud. And no matter how hard you tried to motivate them, they won't do it. I mean, look, some of us think our country is not in the greatest shape right now, but try to get, you would think 75, 80% of people would turn out to vote. Doesn't happen, right? Same thing with people who know they have health risks. You think they would be at the gym, working out, different things. Can't do it, right? So I grossly underestimated the amount of force that's needed to move people out of complacency and getting them on the path to excellence.
Yeah.
I know you've experienced this in some of the things that you've done.
You've seen it. And so I would argue that it's not force, it's manipulation. And, or leverage.
Right.
And you have to pick. And this was something that I did when I was in a management position with my, I had a team, and I studied each one of my team members and figured out what motivated them.
Right. Right.
One person was motivated with time off, because they had a family and they had new kids and they wanted to be home. Another person was motivated by titles, which is weird to me, but okay, you need, or just, that kind of thing. Another person was just motivated with overtime and making money. So, for the person that was motivated with wanting to be able to spend time with their family, I was in a position where I could say, well, look, if you stay a little late, then I'll, you can take this half day off here, or
Right.
if you
Right.
if you work the half a day more here, you can get a full day on the back end. So that I've just learned that you have to pick. In the 48 laws of power, it's like find the thumb screw, which you can find the thumb screw to make people to get what you want for bad things, or you can find their thumb screw to motivate them. So it's less about force and more about, all right, what really turns you on? Where do you want to go? What gets you going? And then let me see if I can create a situation where you get what you want and that'll motivate you. So,
Well, see, that's because you're a good leader. A good leader has to have flexibility in his or her plan. You can't be say like, well, I thought just pay raises is going to be my motivation. Well, guess what? The pay raises aren't working.
right.
So what do I have to do? I've got to do something else. And so many people don't have that ability to change their plan midstream. So
Right, the pivot.
yeah, that's it.
Side note, for those of you guys who are curious about how to motivate the millennial class, they actually like time off. It's not about money. It is about work-life balance. They are not about those 12-hour work days,
Right.
7 days a
Right.
week. So if you have a business or a situation and you don't understand why millennials don't stay on, they only make it a year or 2 years, stop working them so hard and get back to, a 7-hour, 8-hour work day, 5 days a week, and they'll be happy. So that's a side note.
All
So,
right.
all right. To date, what has been your greatest accomplishment or proudest moment?
You know what? It's funny because we talked earlier about how I was the first black African American franchisee
You
in
can say
Domino's
black.
Pizza history. Black,
Black,
black and
black,
proud,
right?
right? And also the years leading the chamber. But I think probably my greatest accomplishment that I'm really proud of is working with the Food Business Pathways program in New York City. And this is a program that we designed for people that are in public housing or Section 8, teaching them entrepreneurship because they're so talented. And there's so much talent that just is wasted because we don't look at every person equally, no matter what we say.
Right.
And by just addressing the things that they need addressed, we are able to create some really fabulous people that are able to do some things because anyone could take a group of Harvard MBAs and say, "Oh, look what I did with them," or whatever, right? Let's take the folks who either didn't have the support at home or the traditional educational training and make them great at what they do. And now I'm taking this program and I'm going to apply it throughout the entire state of New Jersey, to Philadelphia, to the Caribbean. So to me, once it's kind of like if you can go through the toughest part and be good at that, it's really meaningful because you can take it anywhere. But most importantly, at the graduation, you see some people in tears because no one has ever given them a shot before.
Man.
So that is exactly, that's what makes me proud.
As it should.
Definitely.
As it should. It's one thing that a lot of people who have never struggled, who have never been poor,
Right.
what they don't they look at the people on the lower rungs of socioeconomics, and they feel like those people are lazy,
Right,
and
definitely.
whatnot. And okay, it looks that way, but it goes back to everybody is doing the best that they know how. And those people on the lower rungs of socioeconomics don't understand what it takes or what is needed in order to get to the next level. Case in point, I met a girl who she didn't have a checking account, and she, I drive people around for dollars, and so this is how I met her, and she was rushing to get to the check cashing place before it closed, so she could get her money and get her money orders and pay her bills. And I broke it down to her. I'm like, listen, do you understand? Like, how much does it cost you to cash your check, and how much is each money order? And so I did the quick math over the course of the year, how much she was burning by just getting access to her money and then paying her bills. It's like, whereas if you had a checking account
Right.
You wouldn't,
That's right.
all those costs, you wouldn't be taking this Uber ride to
That's
get to the
right.
check cashing because it would have been automatic, direct deposited. And she had no clue.
Yeah.
Like she was blown away by that. No one had broken it down to her like that because everybody in her family, this is how they operated. And the next time I saw her, she had opened the checking account and
Nice.
life was good.
Nice.
But it goes to show you that people they know what they know and they don't know what they don't know.
That's right.
On their end, on the other end, I met a doctor who she did surgeries for children for free. And she was talking about one of her patients, and the girl was poor and she had a lot of kids and she was a single mom. And the classic, the classic mess, right?
Right.
And, she was just like, I just don't understand, she doesn't have this and doesn't have that. And she started talking about credit. The girl had bad credit. And so I had to break it down to her. I'm like, why would she know about credit? If based on what you're telling me, she's not coming. It's not like she lived in the suburbs and then she was just a fuck up and, didn't learn these things. I said, there was nothing around her to introduce her to this kind of information. And so that lady, she was blown away from getting that perspective. And, she was a very giving, nice lady. So there was nothing evil or anything about her. She just didn't understand because a lot of people have a hard time looking at life from a perspective other than the ones that they.
Yeah, you're dead on with that. And I think they do it for a few reasons. Number one is, first off, you have to have the empathy. You have to care what the other person's going through first. And then second, you look at their situation and see how they got to where they are.
Right.
Third is it's easier to just say this person is poor because they don't want to work hard. Right.
Right.
It's a lot harder to admit to yourself that you had advantages that they did not have. I had advantages. Even, my brothers and sisters, they're just tremendous go-getters. That one sister graduated from Rutgers in biology at 20 years old. Another sister, head of the National Association, vice president of National Association of Black Journalists. So when you have those advantages, you need to recognize that.
Right.
And then when you see other people who didn't have those advantages, you need to say, okay, they're doing the best they can. Like you said, they don't know and they didn't have the opportunity.
Correct. So, and I mean, that's I hate saying this, on both sides, because I hear Trump saying on both sides. It was good people on both sides. But, just like, we all have to learn how to be more empathetic and to take a moment and not assume that the next person knows what you know.
Right.
Because we all know different stuff.
Exactly. And look, we all have to have the humility to say, I don't know. How many times have you talked to someone and they're nodding their head, and they got no clue what you're talking about, right? Because, because we are built in to try to pretend like we know all this when we don't.
We don't.
And only a few people will hold their hand up and say, wait a minute, I don't understand that, at the risk of looking silly.
Correct. You don't want to look silly.
No.
All right, let me get to this next question. We're just getting stuck. Let's see. If you could go back in time and give yourself advice, how far back in time would you go? Like what age? And what would you tell the younger you?
I would go back to teenage years, man.
Okay.
And what I would tell myself is that think of the greatest thing you can possibly imagine and put all your efforts towards that. Take time out to have fun. Nothing wrong with that, right? Take time out to breathe and relax and do things of that nature. But really look at what does it take to be great at that and build yourself towards that. And don't let anything distract you. Don't let being good or comfortable get in the way of being great.
Oh, yes. Comfort is the devil.
It is. Comfort is horrible.
It really is. You don't want to be comfortable until you're old.
Exactly.
And you looking at death.
That's
right. You want to be comfortable. But, why, if you don't have the life that you want, then comfort is the devil, because it'll cause you to miss out. You'll be lethargic,
Well, that's just it. And whether you're talking about business or society or life, people get comfortable and then they're not willing to put the work in to be great, right?
Correct.
When you think about changing this country and you go back starting to what the Montgomery bus boycott that really kind of kicked off the civil rights movement. I mean, it was already there, but that put it into high gear. People walked to work or carpooled or bicycled to work for 13 months to bring about change.
Right.
Think about that. Go ask some folks now if they're going to walk to work for 13 months. They look at you like you're crazy, right? Well, then that's why you
Right.
stay where you're staying.
Correct.
You know, and it's the same thing in business, right? If you really want to create something spectacular, what sacrifices were made to get to that point? You know, and so that's the thing where that comfortable will get in the way because you're not really as inspired as you are to do something. Now, if you're losing this and you don't have this or that or the other thing, you're going to put the work in.
Correct. That is absolutely correct. So, I mean, it's why Amazon is thundering along,
Right.
you know, and why companies like Sears and J.C. Penney's are failing because, you know, at one point in time, Sears was Amazon.
That's right.
Sears was selling homes.
That's right. Cars, everything
homes,
from the Sears
everything.
catalog.
And
That's
then
right.
they got comfortable, and, you know, now Sears is done.
Yep.
So, yeah.
They're on life support.
Nah, they're done.
Somebody pulled the plug.
Somebody pulled the plug. We're just watching the last few heartbeats go. So, which is unfortunate, but
It is.
But it is, you know, there's lessons. If you pay attention, there's lessons
right.
to learn from any and everything. So,
For sure.
all right. So when life gets rough, what is the first thing you do to calm yourself down?
You know, I always go back to, luckily I have this family to rely on, right? And my family, they count on me. They count on me to produce for them, right? All three of them, they count on me to be able to take care of business for the home and everything else, right? So when things get really challenging, I look at it and say, how can I provide for them? Because first and foremost, that's kind of like the first level of the hierarchy of needs, right?
Right, yes.
And I find by immersing myself deeper into the work, working harder, it pulls me out of any slump that I'm in, any bad place that I'm in. And I find if I do the opposite and I'm inactive, it gets worse. It builds up and it gets greater and greater in your mind, right? So you go back to not only your current family, but your ancestors and what they did and what's expected of you. You know, if you come to my study, you look over my desk, you'll see Martin, you'll see Malcolm, you'll see Frederick, you know, you'll see Marcus, because I always look up at them every day because I look at it this way. You know, we came from greatness. We didn't come from slavery. We were great leaders, right?
Right.
We came from greatness, so greatness should be expected of us. So no matter how tough things get, how hard it gets, I have a responsibility to wipe off. If Tuesday I got knocked on my tail, on Wednesday morning, I got to get my butt up and do the best that I can for Wednesday. And I will never give up the attitude for as long as I live. I don't care how hard you knock me down. The next day, I'll allow myself to be sad for one night. Next day, get up, make my breakfast, and get to work. That's it.
There you go. There you go. That's very impressive. Very impressive. So some people take baths.
Well, you know, you know what I do for short term?
So
I go in the basement. I get the turntables going.
There you go.
Because music will calm me. I'll drop into a period where I might play like 3 or 4 hours of nothing but Stevie and Marvin.
There you
know,
go.
because the music may be 40 or 50 years old and it's still 100% relevant today.
Oh, it sounds great.
And then if I'm really worn down, brother, take me to the Caribbean. Put me on an island, and a week later, I'm recharged and ready to go every time.
Man, I don't know too many people that would not be recharged after a week in the in the Caribbean, man. Like,
except for those who don't know how to swim. No.
Oh, man, we're not going to talk about the people that can't swim. All right. So, last question. So, what is your ultimate goal?
As I told you earlier, I always looked up to the great leaders, and the work that my father did and my mother and things of that nature. And I said, well, what is my impact and what is my ultimate goal? My ultimate goal is to build an economic development model that changes communities. It doesn't even have to be my model. It could be your model and I'm on your team.
Right.
But I have to play a significant part in creating this model, verifying that it works, and then spreading it all out all over. And I'll give you an example. In Philadelphia, Reverend Sullivan, on the Sullivan principles. If we had followed those principles from the 1970s and 80s to today, you know what shape we'd be in? Philadelphia would be a mecca for us, right? So now I have to find that other ingredient that you talked about. How do I motivate people and inspire them to get behind this so it spreads beyond me? We have way too many movements that die when the originator or the leader dies of it.
Correct.
So one of the ways that I think it has to be done is it has to be from more than me. It can't be my idea. It has to be all of our ideas, a good group, so that no matter who leaves, who comes, who goes, this marches on as if our lives depended on it because they
Correct. Yeah. No. Clap it up. Yeah, I think the challenge, and let me see if I can do this in a very short, concise manner, right?
do.
So if we take it back to when our ancestors were taken off the slave ships,
Right.
right, and what was required of our ancestors to survive that. So here, first of all, any of us that have that originate from ancestors of slavery, right? We're from great stock because we were able to survive.
That's right.
And reproduce.
That's right.
So we do come from very strong stock. But so if you didn't work hard, you got the crap beat out of you, right? If you worked too hard, slave master would work you to death, and the other slaves would kick your ass because you making it too hard for them.
Everybody.
You're making it hard for every. So in order to survive and thrive, and I use the air quotes thrive, you have to work hard enough to get by.
Right.
Okay. And then that mantra, so those are the ones that survived and were able to procreate, and that mentality has been passed down generation after generation, because every time we had success, what happened? You get stomped on.
That's right.
We
Always a pushback.
yeah,
Every single time.
Wall Street.
Yep.
And so that is the challenge for our community in particular. Like we have to overcome this idea that's embedded in our DNA that don't strive too hard,
Right.
because you
That's
don't,
right.
if you have too much, if you live in the hood and you have something nice, somebody's going to take it from you. If you leave the hood, if you do
Then
well and you leave the hood, you
now
can't
you're
ever
a
come.
sellout.
You a sellout.
That's right.
Like, we really get in our own way, and it's not our fault, because it is the way that's the infrastructure of this country.
Right.
So, I think we have to, in order to get to the point where we can make you happy and reach your ultimate goal, is that we have to, look at that Maslow's hierarchy of needs table and get everybody across the board to a place where they can reach self-actualization, which means that they know that they're going to be eating at least once a day.
Right. Right.
That they're safe, that they have protection from the elements, so that they can get to the point where now maybe they can love. They can have relationships, and they can feel loved, and they can have that self-esteem, which then leads them to the point of self-actualization. So now that they have enough mental and emotional capacity to spend a little time daydreaming and, having ideas and finding the energy to make that all happen. I mean, it's a tall order, but it can be done.
It is. And guess what? By shooting towards that goal, now we're going to do better regardless, right? We have, like you just said, we've got to aim for higher goals. We have to. And everything starts with that. You start with the end in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also embrace the unsexy things that are required. Even just if you play basketball, right?
Right.
You master dribbling. Right? You master one move. Right? So then once you master one move, now you can move to the next move. I think we have a tendency to want to start at the top.
Oh,
right?
Definitely.
With our kids, one of the things that irritates me is when people talk about how underfunded schools are. And it is a problem. Before anybody jumps on me, no, it is a problem. But I feel like if children aren't prepared to go to school and are ready to learn, it doesn't matter how much money you throw at the educational system.
No doubt.
You talked about the kids in Haiti and how poor they are.
They didn't even have electricity in their school, so they aligned their desks to face the window so they would have light to read. They let nothing stop them. No money didn't stop them.
Right. So, and so that starts at home.
That's right.
Which is why I love what LeBron James has done with his, promise, I promise school. And, I'm not going to talk about it because I'm not a person who cries, but that thought, it gets me every time when I think about everything he's covered in that school and making sure that the families are taken care
That's
of
right.
so that the kids are coming to school and they're ready to learn. And that's very important. Let's clap it up for LeBron James.
That's right. He's an
that.
inspiration.
Seriously. So, all right. So now that I've answered questions for you, I'm not going to make you do down in the DM, which is the so we laugh that out. So, but I do have some advice questions, and I'm sure people, the people who ask those questions would love to get your insight as to what they should do. So, are you ready for this?
Fire away, brother.
Okay. So, dear DJ Silk, I have been struggling with my photography business for years, and I'm thinking about quitting. It's a hard decision. I'm not sure what to do. Should I quit or keep at it? What would you do?
So my belief is that you only quit when after you've exhausted all of your avenues, right? So that's your goal in life, is to be a photographer. I think the first step that you do is take a look and see, what are you doing, and talk to someone who's going to bring some unconventional ideas to you. Maybe, for example, you've been so busy trying to get individual customers that you're just wasting your time. Instead, you need to take 3 months and do nothing but try to land one big contract, a foundational contract, which is going to move you forward as a photographer. Maybe you have to do some type of photography you didn't want to do. Maybe, you've always shied away from wedding photography, and guess what? It's sitting right there. So I would reach out to people who you normally don't talk to, get as much advice from them as possible, and then try methods and approaches that you've never tried before. And then once you've fully exhausted everything, now it's time to move on.
Okay. That's actually pretty good. Clap it up.
Little
clap, right? All right. So here's what I'm saying. I think you just go ahead and quit. No, seriously though. So I'm a pretty unconventional person, and sometimes you have to use the power of quitting to figure out if you're making the right decision. And so when I quit DJing, when I retired and I was done, I started selling equipment. I was really done. It felt great. I remember the last wedding reception I did. It felt great when I played that last record and I was done. And, at that moment, I'm like, I'm not doing this ever again. Like, it felt really good. And months following that, music started sounding good again to me because I was no longer listening to it through the filter of how would this work at a party or a wedding. Like, so for 20 years I had been listening to music as a DJ, and how would I play it and where would I play it, and if I
True.
So that time of being a quitter, it felt great, and it kind of brought me back to loving DJing again and getting me started. And that only could have happened because I quit. Because 3 to 5 years leading up to me actually making that decision, I kept going back and forth. Should I quit?
Right.
Because I was running into all these hurdles and I was tired of going over hurdle after hurdle after hurdle. So I know as a society, you were always talking about, don't quit. You got to keep going.
Yeah.
If you quit, you're guaranteeing that you won't be successful. Sometimes you need to quit just so that you can give yourself an opportunity to determine whether or not you should be doing it or not.
Yeah, you have to decide over time whether you still have the love for that art.
Right.
That's a big part of it. And then also, by taking time off, you relieve the pressures from yourself and you open up your mind to new approaches.
Right.
So now that when you're going back at DJing, you know what you like, you know what you don't like. Guess what? I'm not doing those things over there I don't like.
Correct.
So now I'm going to do it if I can do these things over here that I like.
Absolutely. So, yeah. So, look, if you're that burnout, quit.
Right.
Because if it's really for you, you'll come back to it. It'll find you, and you'll reinvent yourself. But don't drag yourself through the mud. Like, don't allow the scarlet letter of being a quitter stop you from living your best life and doing what's right for you.
That's right.
So, all right. So here we go. We'll see how you like this one. This question. Dear DJ Silk, I have been struck. Oh no, that's the wrong one. Let's see. Dear DJ Silk, I'm not sure what to do. I've had a crush on my coworker for a while now. We're definitely cool. We have lunch together a lot, and we do text small convo type stuff outside of work. Lately, he's been joking with me, telling me that cuffing season is coming, and I better find someone. He also has been talking about how he's looking for a good woman while around me to the other coworkers. Is he really flirting with me, or is it in my head? Normally, I have no problem with being more forward, but if I'm wrong, then it will make the work situation very awkward. Why won't he ask me out if he's interested? What should I do? What should she do, John? What should she do?
Well, I kind of like confronting things head on. So I would tell her just pull dude aside and have a straight conversation with him. And just be like, cool, we're good, we good. If not, it's no problem. Just, because you're saying these things, it might tend to lead someone to think a certain thing. So in that situation, I would tell her, go talk to dude, but not in front of anyone else.
Okay.
What would DJ Silk give?
Well, first of all, why won't he ask me out if he's interested? Because he's probably having the same fears that you're having about making the workplace awkward, right? So I agree with you. I would love to be the devil's advocate here and make it a little bit more interesting. But in these situations, if you want something, if you got to go get it.
That's right.
And if you don't want to be that direct, then you need to flirt back and you need to give him some indicators that you are interested, and then hopefully he will take the next step. Because it sounds like, based on what's going on here, he's been forward enough, asking you to lunch, text conversations, joking, talking about cuffing season, all that stuff. So really the ball is in your court, and if you are interested in him, then make the next move. And whatever you do, no matter how it shakes out, don't get petty, because you don't want the work situation to become awkward. So that's my advice. So go ahead, give it a try. What do you got to lose? Maybe a job? I don't know. If it's not your career, it's all right. You can get another job. So It's all good. All right, last question. See, hello, I'm thinking about going to school for political science because I'm really interested in getting into politics. The problem is that I can't afford to pay for school on my own, and my family isn't able to help, and they don't think I should go back to get another degree. Their pushback has me second-guessing myself. Should I make the move? Should she make the move?
Now I'm going to be the contrarian, and I'm going to say no, because I think the old path of political science, because you want to go into politics, is kind of like a dead path.
Correct.
People are coming in from all different angles, all different walks of life. So I think I'm kind of feeling the family. I'm thinking like, okay, so it kind of referenced another degree. So I know folks like that. I have family members like that are perennial students. They have multiple degrees into their 40s and they've never actually done anything.
Correct. Yep.
So I would say just hop on in and run for local office. I was on the school board for 6 years in my town. Go for township committee, then go up to the state house and then the federal government. I would say to just do it, using the old Nike phrase, but
Let's do it.
I kind of agree with the family at this point. I say get in it. I mean, look at, AOC, you look at these young dynamites.
right. Man.
Yeah, so I would say to this person, please just hop in there and make it happen.
Yeah, so I'm going to actually expound on that for all of you out there who feel like every time you want to make a move, you go back to school. Look, I'm definitely for higher education. Mm-hmm. However, I feel that most people are using it in the wrong way. Right. No, we have the internet.
Right.
You have a wealth of information. It is not necessary to go back to school every time you want to make a change, unless you're going back. You want to do something highly specialized where you don't have access to the equipment and the information required to maybe be able to make that move. You find a way to get your foot in the door in that industry and go from there. You don't need to always go back to school.
No doubt.
You can, these are different times. And, not for nothing, I kind of feel like the whole, you need to have a degree to get this job was just a way to keep certain people
Without a
out of,
doubt.
it was a
And
gate.
here's how you know that's true, right? Think of the degrees of the different classes you've taken in school, and then think about what you actually did on the job, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? They're
Right.
not even close.
No.
There was when I sold my store, I went back to school and I had gone to University of California, University of Maryland. I didn't learn a tenth of what I learned actually owning the business. When I went back to school, I went to Middlesex County College to get back in, and I had the best professors ever because these were men and women who actually worked in the field and were teaching you real life stuff.
Right.
So you go, what are you going back for political science for when you can learn it? Like you said, just turn your computer on. It's right there.
Learn, run for office, run
Yeah,
for local office, and get yourself volunteer for different politicians
that's
and,
right.
and start from the ground up. We do have this culture of, oh, I gotta go back to school. Education is very important, but for the most part, outside of specialized degrees,
Right. That's
right?
right.
All that college really teaches you demonstrates that you have the ability to learn,
Hmm.
and you have the ability to to make a goal and stick to it and follow it through.
Right.
Okay, there's a lot of great experiences that you can get from college, the friends you make, learning how to deal with people who don't look like you or from different
Hmm.
backgrounds. Those are all invaluable lessons that you can get from school, but not at the tune of six-figure debt.
That's it exactly. All of your education plan has to be targeted. It
Right.
has to be strategic. You just don't go and get a debt because I know folks who have hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt.
Oof.
I tell them, I say, you have a mortgage without the house.
Correct.
That's really what you have. You owe $300,000 in these loans and stuff. What was the point? How much further did it take you? So
Right.
we've got to look at it from a different perspective, and we can't afford to go backwards. And you're going
No.
backwards when you're deep in debt and you can't work your way out.
Correct. Correct. So no, don't go back to school. Volunteer for your local politician. Get started at the ground up and go figure it out from there. And that goes for anybody who is thinking about changing their career and they think the first thing they need to do is go back to school. You have this thing called Google, right? And you can type in what it is you want to do and kind of get an idea what you need to learn or what you
Right.
need to do to get your foot in the door. Because even if you go back to school and you get the degree and it says, hey, I have a marketing degree or I have a computer science degree or whatever, you're still going to start out exactly where
Yeah.
anybody else would have started out with no experience. We're just in a different era now.
Oh,
And
without a doubt. I just think you have to reach out to people who are successful in what you want to do. Talk
correct.
to them and listen to them because they're going to tell you something which is totally different than what you expected, both good and bad. So
Somebody like you?
if that's what they want to do, if people want to do
Yeah.
business consulting, economic development, travel to the Caribbean, yeah,
Yeah, there
I'm,
you
I'm your
go.
guy.
Yes, dude. Like I said, know the answers to the questions you didn't even know to ask yet.
There you go.
So there you go. So there's some advice questions.
Right.
So if you have advice, you want advice questions, you can reach out to me at DJ Silk on Instagram or at the End Podcast, and that's all one word: THEINPODCAST. If you're watching this on YouTube, you see the little icon, the labels, the whatever the titles on the screen. So don't be shy. I'm good with it. Um, so yeah. So John, is there anything else about you that you want to share that I didn't cover? He's like, no.
I guess the only thing else that I would really want to add in there is that we grossly underestimate how important chasing our dreams is. I
Yes.
just think that is probably the one of the biggest lessons in life is that you go to work because people tell you have to.
Correct.
You take this 9 to 5 because you have to provide for your family. You do this and you do all these things. Think of how little time in life most people spend pleasing themselves and really
Right.
going after their dreams and taking that time to make that happen. To me, life should be a lot more about how do I set myself up so that I can be happy, so that I can
Correct.
please me, instead of living in all of the things that require from me from family, friends, work, and everything else. And so to me, life is really about two things. Number one, for me, most importantly, is how can I make a lasting impact on others to help them? And then number two how can I live a happy life and how can I enjoy the fruits of my labor? Last thing I want to do is end of my life look back and be like, oh, I didn't have fun. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. That's not what it's about, right?
Correct.
So, I mean, that's what I would really want to get across is that those are the two things which drive me. Making an impact for starting with my family, extending to my community, and eventually the world, because we're all human beings, right?
Correct.
And then the other part is, how am I going to enjoy life the next 10 years? Maybe with
Correct.
DJ Silk cruising through the beaches or something.
Yeah, man.
That's probably the game plan.
Don't threaten me with a good time. Don't do that. All right, yeah. So, man, you know what? I think we're gonna wrap it up. So
All right.
let me hit the closeout music. So, usually I ask people, guests, if they learned anything from their experience, and I actually to let them know that before we start everything, but I didn't even I didn't ask you. I didn't let you know. So I'll let you take this time if there's anything that you've learned or anything else you want to share, and also your contact information if you want to give that out.
Sure. I mean, you know what I really learned? I really learned a lot from your story in terms of taking time out. Because we always feel like we have to keep going forward, we have to keep pushing. No, it's okay to sometimes say, I'm checking out for a while. So I think that is something which I'm really going to utilize a lot, both in terms of advice and also looking at my own life and saying, wait a minute, maybe I just need to stop doing this right now. So I think that is a huge point we need to get out there, because I think that will go a long way for people's mental health. And
Yes.
So I love that. I love that idea. That's just the first thing that jumps out of me. And I know we're closing up. So
No, take your time. We got all the time. This is my show. This is our time. So you do what you want.
the other thing that really jumps out of me is you meet a few people that are special in life, right? And when you meet those people, you stay in touch with them and you continue to build on stuff. And stuff may not work the first time, the second time, or the third time, but it is. And to me, that special person, one of them is DJ Silk.
Oh, man, there we go.
Without a doubt,
you.
far more than a DJ, but just really a brilliant young man. I can call you young.
Yes, you can. I'm going to take that.
That's right. Brilliant young man who cares about the community, cares about other people, and has the understanding to realize that, he has special talents and he can do a lot with them. And I know he's never going to give up.
Oh, man.
So that is,
thank you.
That's the other major point I draw from this conversation, those two things. So if you guys want to reach me, you can reach me at childressbiz.com. That's childressbiz.com. And I'm on Twitter, social media, and all that stuff. But hit me up. Let me know how I can help you. Or if you want to be a part of this team to build something great, hit me up, and you can always reach me through DJ Silk. And you can check me out on the turntables, and you will get the second greatest DJ in the world.
There
Don't forget it.
But make sure that you're ready to cut the check. Right?
No doubt.
That's, it's a business.
Or if you don't have money, just say that up front. And we'll put you into that bucket of, we're going to help you, and we're going to teach you where to go find your help. But just be honest in what you do.
Right. No. Clap that up again. That's very important. I mean, we have a tendency to want free from our people.
Exactly.
We'll cut big checks for other people, but for our people, we don't want free. We want the lookout. So
be wary of friends and family, brother.
So what I've learned, just from this experience, well, you know what? Not even that I learned, but just reminded of how accomplished person you are.
Oh, thank you.
It's really cool, and I love the fact that it's like, hey, you want to be on my podcast? You're like, yeah, man, what's up? Like your response was almost like, how dare you even ask me?
That's right.
Right. So, but all the great things that you've accomplished and what's on your heart to accomplish moving forward is just a beautiful thing. So we need more John Childresses on this planet to make it a better place. So yeah, I'm very humbled to have you here, and I'm humbled to have you as a friend. We go way back.
That's right.
And so I appreciate you. And thank you for helping me open this season too,
Anytime.
man. Yes,
Anytime,
what's
brother.
up? So until the next time, make sure follow, subscribe, like, comment. You got to do all those things for me. Please, I'm begging you. Don't make me beg. You can follow at the End Podcast. That's on Instagram, and there's a Facebook page as well. Website will be coming at some point in time, or at DJ Silk. And again, if you have advice questions that you want to ask, go ahead, send them my way. If you have uncomfortable DM conversations because you're being sexually harassed online and you want to bring light to it and have some fun with it, you can send those my way as well. So until the next time, this is the End Podcast. I'm DJ Silk. Thanks again, once again, to John Childress of
Thank you, my
Childress Business Consulting. And we are out. Thank you.